Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind, Vivien Leigh, a name associated with the glamour of Hollywood, great roles, and unparalleled talent. She was not just a screen star, but a symbol of her time. Millions admired her beauty, applauded her acting, without suspecting what was hidden behind this perfection. Her life was filled with triumphs, but also shadowed by darkness. When her body was discovered in her London home, it was a shock to everyone who knew her. It was then, on the day of her death, that her close ones learned the secret Vivien had been hiding for many years. This is the tragic story of Vivien Leigh's life, behind the spotlight. Imagine a landscape lush with greenery, blue hills, veiled in mist, and endless tea plantations. It was here in the heart of exotic India that Vivien Leigh was born on November 5, 1913. Her father, Ernest Hartley, was a successful broker, while her mother, Gertrude Robinson Hartley, had a stern Irish temperament steeped in religious morality. At first glance, their family epitomized stability, a well-off middle-class household with access to the best education and cultural elite. However, behind this facade of prosperity lay coldness and emotional distance, which Vivien felt from an early age. It was her mother who first recognized young Vivien's artistic tendencies. Despite her strictness, she encouraged her daughter's dreams, seeing the potential for a future star in her. Her father, preoccupied with business and work, was more reserved in expressing affection. The family's financial stability allowed Vivien to attend prestigious schools, but she struggled to connect with her peers, preferring solitude and reading books. These early years shaped her introverted personality, which paradoxically later blossomed into extraordinary charisma on stage. "My parents gave me everything one could wish for," Vivien would later say, "except perhaps the one thing I wanted most, warmth." This quote perfectly encapsulates the beginning of her life journey, the glittering facade of the outer world and the inner longing hidden beneath it. When Vivien turned 6, her family left sun-soaked India and moved to Europe. As they began their new life in England, her parents made a life-changing decision: to send their daughter to a convent school in London. The school in London became both a challenge and a sanctuary for her. Vivien quickly stood out among her peers with her intelligence and artistic talents. Her passion for literature and theater grew with each passing day, and the school's strict rules only fueled her desire for freedom. She read voraciously, devouring everything from classic plays to novels. And soon, she began to dream of the theater herself. It was in this environment that her personality took shape, a personality that would later make her a global star. At the age of 19, Vivien Leigh took her first step into a new adult life when she met Herbert Leigh Holman, a calm and steady lawyer 13 years her senior. Their union seemed as stable as it was contradictory. He dreamed of a quiet family life, while she longed for the spotlight and applause. Herbert, captivated by her beauty and charm, saw her as his ideal companion. But from the very beginning, it was clear that Vivien was not someone who could be content with the role of a wife and homemaker. This marked the start of their unequal struggle. He tried to tame her dreams, while she fought to break free from the confines he imposed on her. In 1933, Vivien became a mother. It seemed that this new chapter might strengthen the bonds of her family life, but the reality is quite the opposite. Despite the birth of her daughter Suzanne, she increasingly felt like a prisoner of her circumstances. Her dreams of theater and film didn't fade. On the contrary, they grew stronger. She was forced to choose between her ambitions and the traditional expectations placed upon her as a wife and a mother. Vivien felt that her marriage was restraining her, depriving her of the opportunity to pursue her dreams. Yet she knew she could not sacrifice her passion for the arts for the sake of her family. Then an event occurred that would turn her life upside down. Vivien found her path by enrolling in the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA. This decision became her ticket to the world of the arts, where she caught the attention of influential figures and began receiving invitations to parties and events in London social circles. Her natural charm and sharp intellect made her a star not only on stage, but also in society. She quickly captured the attention of directors and producers who recognized her unique potential. In 1935, Vivien made her on-screen debut in the film Things Are Looking Up. The role was small, but her beauty and expressive performance instantly drew attention. The camera loved her, and audiences craved to see more of her. It was only her first step, but even then it was clear that greatness awaited her. However, the road to success was not always easy. In the 1930s, young actresses were often seen more as beautiful ornaments than serious performers. Vivien faced this stereotype everywhere, sparking a deep inner protest. She was determined to prove that beneath her delicate exterior lay strength, talent, and ambition, capable of redefining how women were perceived in the arts. This challenge became her personal battle, shaping the course of her entire career. "Beauty is both a gift and a curse," she would later say. And in her words, there was a bitterness born of the struggle for recognition, a struggle that began during this formative period of her life. In 1937, on the set of the film Fire Over England, Vivien Leigh met Laurence Olivier. It was a meeting that would forever change their lives. Both were married at the time. Vivien to Herbert Leigh Human, and Laurence to actress Jill Esmond. But the spark between them ignited instantly, and the passion they felt was too powerful to ignore. Secret meetings, stolen moments of happiness, and misjudgment and gossip. Their romance was like walking a tightrope. They knew their love broke all the rules of propriety, yet they couldn't stop. Every moment together was filled with desperate passion and the looming realization that it could destroy their reputations. When Vivien decided to enter marriage to Herbert and Oliver left his wife, society did not take their side. Vivien found herself at the center of a loud scandal, becoming a target for gossip and slander. She was accused of destroying a family and labeled a selfish woman willing to do anything for her own happiness. Divorce was rare at the time, especially among the elite, and this bold move challenged the norms of the era. But Vivien stood firm. She chose love and freedom, despite the judgment she faced. When Vivien decided to work with Oliver in the theater, she encountered yet another obstacle. Her success in cinema had made her famous, but in the world of classical British theater, she was seen as a superficial actress. Her attempts to secure roles alongside Oliver met resistance. The conservative London theater elite was reluctant to welcome a woman whose reputation had been tarnished by scandal into their stage. Yet on the horizon, a major breakthrough in her career was about to emerge. Vivien Leigh didn't just want to shine on screen. She longed to portray a heroine who was complex, contradictory, and deeply emotional. She sought roles that would reflect her own inner world, a world filled with passion, ambition, and an ongoing struggle with herself. The film Fire Over England marked her first significant step toward success. Her on-screen charisma and nuanced performance instantly captivated audiences, and her romantic chemistry with Laurence Olivier not only fueled the public's fascination, but entranced them. Yet despite the recognition, Vivien knew she was still on the journey towards the role that would make her immortal. Landing the role of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind was a dream that seemed almost unattainable. Vivien was a relatively unknown British actress, while the role was intended for an American star, but this didn't stop her. When Vivien heard about the casting, she crossed the ocean to seize the opportunity. Over 1,400 actresses competed for the chance, including Hollywood's biggest stars. Yet Vivien, with her magnetic charm and unparalleled determination, managed to outshine them all. When she first appeared before the producers, one of them exclaimed, "Here's our Scarlett." Filming Gone with the Wind was a grueling ordeal. Vivien worked 16-hour days, often to the point of exhaustion. She clashed with the authoritarian style of director Victor Fleming, who was known for his harsh, uncompromising methods. Their conflict sometimes escalated into shouting matches and tears. Yet despite these challenges, Vivien gave it her all, as though she instinctively knew this role would become the pinnacle of her career. She transformed Scarlett O'Hara into a heroine whom audiences both loved and hated, selfish, stubborn, yet undeniably strong. Gone with the Wind became a legendary film, and Vivien Leigh an international star. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, making her name synonymous with glamour and talent. Audiences and critics alike were in awe of her brilliance, noting that no one could have portrayed Scarlett better. Vivien proved she wasn't just a beautiful face, but a true actress with a rare gift for transformation. The path to fame was not without pain. Vivien rarely saw her daughter Suzanne during filming and touring. Motherhood remained overshadowed by her ambitions, and the guilt of this sacrifice haunted her throughout her life. "I always felt that I was taking something away from my daughter," Vivien later admitted, "but it was a price I was willing to pay." Do you think it's right to pay such a price for success? Vivien continued to face contempt from theater critics who dismissed her as a product of Hollywood. Her talent was often undervalued, with critics questioning her ability to perform complex roles on the stage. This unfair stereotype deeply hurt Vivien, but she didn't give up. Her determination to prove herself worthy of respect only grew stronger. This unfolded her journey to fame. It was both triumphant and tragic, full of victories that came with personal losses and inner conflicts. After the triumph of Gone with the Wind, Vivien Leigh continued to build a career that would become legendary. Her collaboration with Laurence Olivier in theater brought several iconic productions to life, including their ambitious Romeo and Juliet project. Together, they pursued perfection, but the path was fraught with stress and creative disagreements. While their theatrical successes brought magic to the stage, behind the curtains, their turbulent personal relationship added fuel to the fire. However, the true testament to her genius came with the portrayal of Blanche Dubois in the film A Streetcar Named Desiree in 1951. This role seemed as though it had been written for her. Blanche, a fragile woman disconnected from reality, became a mirror of Vivien's own suffering. She poured her soul into the role, living through every scene as if it were her own personal experience. This performance earned her a second Academy Award and cemented her status as one of the greatest actresses of all time. Yet art often demanded an unparalleled price. The emotionally draining role of Blanche nearly destroyed her from within. After filming, her health deteriorated rapidly, and she struggled to detach herself from the character. This role became not only a triumph, but also a forewarning of the torment that lay ahead. The diagnosis of bipolar disorder marked a turning point in Vivien's life. The constant mood swings, bursts of boundless energy, followed by profound exhaustion, made working with directors and colleagues increasingly difficult. Hollywood, always hungry for new stars, began to drift away from the actress who was fighting, not just for roles, but for herself. She sacrificed everything for her art, her health, her relationships, her personal happiness. Her life was filled with triumphs and falls, but every time she appeared on screen or stage, it was a reminder that true genius never comes without a price. Behind the image of a dazzling actress was a woman who paid the highest cost for her extraordinary talent. Vivien Leigh and Laurence Olivier spent 2 decades together, marked by passion, triumphs, and hardships. However, her mental health struggles and the strain of their shared life ultimately led to their divorce in 1960, a devastating blow for Vivien. After the split, she found solace in her relationship with John Merivale, who became her companion in her later years. Yet even in this union, she remained deeply lonely, holding on to the memories of her love for Oliver. Her personal life was inseparably linked to public scandals. Tabloids frequently reported on infidelities that overshadowed her marriages, both on Vivien's part and that of her partners. She was rumored to have affairs with colleagues, including Marlon Brando, though many of these stories remained unsubstantiated gossip. Her bipolar disorder often led to public outbursts that drew criticism. One of the most infamous incidents occurred when she abruptly walked off a film set, sparking a wave of backlash and putting her professional reputation at risk. But these weren't the only challenges she faced. Vivien was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a disease that at the time was still poorly understood and difficult to treat. Her battle with tuberculosis and bipolar disorder greatly strained her relationships with those closest to her. Laurence Olivier said, "I loved her as deeply as I could, but her darkness was stronger." After her divorce from Olivier, Vivien never truly recovered emotionally. Her close friends recalled that even years later, she continued to speak about him, unable to let go of her lost love. After the resounding success of A Streetcar Named Desiree, Vivien Leigh became not only a legend, but also an actress who was difficult to work with. Her bipolar disorder caused drastic mood swings, creating a tense atmosphere on set. She could be charming and inspiring one moment and hostile and combative the next. These fluctuations made her relationship with directors, colleagues, and producers increasingly challenging. Many simply refused to work with her, fearing her unpredictability. Despite her undeniable talent, conflicts became a recurring theme for her professional life, gradually undermining her career. Tuberculosis, first diagnosed in 1944, became a chronic shadow that followed Vivien until the end of her life. Each new relapse sapped her strength, making it difficult for her to return to work. Despite her physical weakness, she made every effort to hide her condition, keeping it a secret to avoid losing roles. But the disease relentlessly drained her, slowly taking over her life and body. By the 1960s, her career was in decline. A new generation of young actresses began to replace her, and her mental health made working with her increasingly risky. In the theater world, she was seen as a star who could jeopardize production due to her unpredictable behavior. Offers for roles became increasingly rare, and the stage, which had once been her sanctuary, began to turn away from her. Former friends and colleagues gradually distanced themselves, unable to cope with her outbursts of aggression and bouts of depression. Vivien found herself increasingly alone, battling loneliness and a profound sense of loss. Despite her failing health and the decline of her career, Vivien Leigh continued to fight for her place in the world of art. She returned to the stage, choosing roles in plays by Tennessee Williams and Noel Coward. These productions became her way of proving that her talent remained as strong as ever. However, her success was inconsistent. Physical weakness and emotional breakdown often led to failures, intensifying her inner struggles. During this time, John Merivale was by her side. His care helped Vivien endure the difficult periods, but even with this support, she was unable to fully regain the joy of life. Her days were filled with memories of the past, of the glorious times when her talent captivated millions. These memories gave her strength, but they also deepened her longing for the years that had slipped away. The final years of Vivien Leigh's life were spent in her spacious London home. The house, filled with luxurious items, reflected her past grandeur, but could not mask the emotional isolation she felt. Her fame had faded, and the friends and colleagues who had once surrounded her gradually disappeared. Vivien spent more and more time alone, lost in memories of her glory days on stage and screen. The tuberculosis that had plagued her for much of her life became increasingly aggressive. Each new relapse drained her strength, forcing her to spend long days confined to bed. Despite her physical decline, Vivien fought to maintain her dignity, even as the battle against her illness grew unbearable. Vivien continued to experience extreme mood swings. She could be radiant and charming one moment, only to sink into deep depression the next. These fluctuations made her even more isolated, but she fought bravely against the effects of bipolar disorder as best as she could. The final relapse of tuberculosis in 1967 became her ultimate test. The disease progressed rapidly, and despite all efforts, her condition worsened. Even in these moments, she tried to conceal her suffering from those around her, maintaining the grace and resilience that had always defined her. On July 7th, 1967, at the age of 53, the world lost Vivien Leigh. one of the brightest stars of her time. Her death, though preceded by years of battling tuberculosis, came as a shock. That day, she collapsed in her home after a violent coughing fit caused by the illness. Her body was discovered by John Merivale, who'd always been by her side, but could not prevent the tragedy. For years, Vivien kept the severity of her condition a secret from those closest to her. She didn't want to evoke pity and strove to appear strong until the very end. Only after her death did her loved ones realize how advanced her illness had become. Her determination to shield others from her suffering was yet another testament to her strength of spirit, but also a poignant symbol of her profound loneliness. The news of her death shook the world. It felt so sudden that many found it hard to believe. The public had no idea of the hardships she'd endured in her final years. Her passing was as unexpected in an end to her life marked by brilliance, struggle, and loss. Vivien Leigh, we will remember you always.